Let me dive into this. Let me face any possibility that there are definitely parts of me that are ultimately a hypocrite. Parts of me that are not, I'm telling you to be confident despite hair loss, yet in some ways I can never really be where you are if you're younger than me and have less hair than me. So I want, as much as I'm able to, make videos that challenge me so that I can not be a hypocrite, and more importantly, truly help my audience, who largely is younger than me and has less hair, or are in their teenage years and are already obsessing over whether they're gonna lose their hair or not. So here we go. I made a video, and this was me being honest, and this is further down that journey. And it's funny, I just wanna say this real quick. As far as us all being on a hair loss journey, a couple years ago, I was still at the point where, like, I was afraid I was gonna lose my hair, and it bothered my self-esteem. I promise you that's not where I'm actually at, but if I can be honest with you, then I would tell you, it's comments like this that point out where I truly am in my hair loss journey. And I also made a video recently talking about why do I kind of smile a little bit when I think of the thought that I'll still have most of my hair at my 20th high school reunion in a year and a half. So that's pointing out where I'm at in my journey too. Because if I were truly cured, 100%, I wouldn't care whether I had a full head of hair at my 20th anniversary or reunion, whatever you call it. All right, check out the comment on the video. 0 guard, head shave, that's not part of my identity yet. And this is stemming from me admitting that while I do plan to buzz my hair off this year, I don't necessarily plan to shave it like it is 0 guard. And I said because, and ultimately my reasoning was because I realized that by the time I get to the point where I'd have to shave it that much, it's still a ways off from me. So there's no need to throw myself into that identity where I have thrown myself as Norwood 4. Which I think at a Norwood 4 I could still get away with maybe even a 1.5 or a 1 guard and be fine. But for me, a 0 guard is more of it once you get into Norwood 5, which I don't think I'm gonna be in the next decade or so. So here's what Robert had to say, and he's referring back to what Max said. There's a whole conversation, but I'm looking at the most recent part of it that just happened an hour ago when I made this video. Robert says this to Max, quote, "Good points, Max, and thanks for your corroboration. I think you've outlined the slight problem or problems with Nick's shave it enthusiasm perfectly. First and foremost, he isn't actually talking about shaving it. Also, young men who are severely balding, a portion of his audience, will likely benefit the most in terms of aesthetics by fully shaving their heads. That's the only way you truly get a boost in your perceived confidence level, manliness, dominance, etc. A buzz cut doesn't count and actually accentuates the hair loss a bit in many cases. Wear a hat for a couple of weeks if you don't like it, perhaps. I don't see the big deal here personally," end quote. So, I mean, I guess the thing is when I do buzz my hair, I'm gonna have to go ahead and probably do the 0 guard. Here's the thing, I don't mind doing it because it will grow out within a week or two and be back to a 1 or 1.5 or whatever. My hair grows very quickly. It's just more about the logistics of it. And what I mean by that is, to shave it that short, I know it's hard for you to relate to this, but remember I'm a married man, and it's all about like not rocking the boat. Like the whole beard thing. Do I look better with a beard? Yes, of course I do. Of course I look better with a beard. And when you tune in on the Lifetime Network on February 20th, which is a Tuesday at 8 o'clock Central Time, you'll see me with a beard. And you'll think, man, he looks good with a beard. A beard totally suits him. Why doesn't Nick have a beard? Well, honestly, my wife doesn't like being scratched. You've seen her say that in videos, you know? If my wife is reluctant to kiss me because there's gonna be straw coming out of her face, I can understand where she's coming from. I am putting myself in that position. So you know what? Even if I look better with a beard, undeniably I look great with a beard. And even I rock the silver hair coming out of here. If my wife doesn't want me to have a beard because it scratches her face, then I'm not going to be a guy who has a beard. And it's fine with me. With that being said, I don't know that I've ever told you this before, but a couple years ago, and I'm trying to think of how long ago this would have been. It was before I was making these hair loss videos. It was really before I was doing YouTube at all. I'd say the summer before that, I think, is when I did this. But one day I was buzzing off my hair with like a number 2 guard, and turns out it was like a half guard, like a half of one or something like that. And somehow it was so just messed up that I went ahead and did the 0 guard. I was like, just fine, just go ahead and do it. And when I did that, it was unsettling to my wife because it came out of nowhere. She was used to the 1.5 guard, but then when I did that, like, it just made things weird for a while until it grew out, because she felt that it was just so over the top for me to do that. So I think, and I'm being honest with you, that's why I don't want to get back to that weird place where your wife like feels like, do I know you? Kind of thing, like, because that's kind of the vibes not kind of, that's how it was for like a week. And so I did wear a hat. Now granted, I'm taking a story that has an emotional context and projecting it at you as if it's still the same. Now in reality, let's say whenever it is, the spring, the summer, whenever I finally do it, which I'm smart to buzz my hair off because it'll draw a bigger crowd, and you'll get to see a dynamic character change in your host. Which, by the way, why does Marvel make better superhero movies than DC? 3 points. First, they have better villains typically, and that creates much more of a difference between the hero and the villain. It makes the story more interesting if there's an interesting villain. Marvel's better at that. The second thing Marvel's better at than DC, they are better at having a more dynamic character change. So when Batman vs. Superman, from the beginning to the end of the movie, Batman and Superman were the same people. Batman was still just kind of like Batman is just like, oh, I can't believe I'm still doing this. And Superman was this saint who just didn't do anything wrong. They didn't change during the movie. It wasn't, therefore, it wasn't a great movie. Whereas Marvel characters have some kind of change. You saw what happened to Thor in the newest Thor movie. Undeniably, he, not only physically, but his identity has even evolved in the process. DC doesn't do those dynamic character changes. And then lastly, something that Marvel does better is that typically their movies aren't simply a superhero movie. It's a superhero movie under the guise of something else. Like, for example, Ant-Man. I saw it in the theaters. Ant-Man is a heist movie. It's about someone breaking in and trying to get something, under the guise of it being a superhero movie. And you can say this about so many of Marvel's movies. They're really some other kind of movie. There's some other kind of genre that you think is actually a superhero movie, which I would argue all day long, this isn't actually a hair loss channel. It's a mentorship program helping younger men with confidence. That's really what this is. But I make you think it's about hair loss by talking about hair loss and making that in the title. But really, I know that when I'm speaking and I'm coming up with ideas, I'm not thinking about hair. I'm thinking about psychology. So those are the 3 reasons why Marvel typically easily makes better movies than Marvel, because Marvel just can't get that 3 thing down, which is have a better villain, have a better character arc, and what was the last one that I just said? Is that it's really 2 genres really in one, and that's what they're all about. With that being said, it's only smart of me as a YouTuber to have a character arc. For you to see me go to such an extreme, if only for a week. So I'm sure in reality, if I tell my wife, hey, I'm gonna shave off my hair, every time you see me, I'll have a hat on. But if it kind of makes you feel weird to see me that way, then I understand. And kind of going back to the whole point of the other video was, it's not part of my identity. Now, if I would have started going bald a couple years ago and I was already doing that, it wouldn't freak my wife out. But if I just go from a guy who can have hair to just choosing, and I think it was the choice more than anything. It was the fact that I was choosing to go that bald that threw her off, because she knew that wasn't part of my identity, who I was. I'm not a guy who shaves all of my hair off with a 0 guard. So keeping that in mind, I still think it reinforces the point of the other video. But at the same time, I think if I explain that to her, and I wear a hat when I'm around her, and then when I'm not around her, I make videos, completely showcasing the baldness, I think everything will be fine. So those are my plans. I'm not even excited to do it, but I'm excited that I can be that much more relevant to people watching my show. But again, it's a matter of attaching your identity to where your own hairline's going. And so because I'm not a Norwood 5, 6, or 7, and it may be a long time before I am, to me, if anything, that's acting. Because I'm having to be something I'm not. In my mind, I'm Norwood 4 at worst for the next decade or so. So it takes me to a different place, and that would actually truly be acting. But I should take one for the team, and I should do it. So that's what I'm planning on doing at some point in the future this year. Yeah, but I gotta talk to my wife about it first.